if you want to go to Erie Ale Works website, you can get a full rundown of all the beers that they have, and we brought every beer they brew. So please do indulge. And we also have these pamphlets for the Erie Ale Trail. Well, good. While I switch over here, short story about that, why we brought that stuff. In Erie, the brewers have all worked together to form an entire ale trail that attracts people into the region for tourism. And our brewers work together to the degree that when someone has wanted to start a brewery, they've started in another brewer who had excess capacity until they have everything up and going, running, and they've gone to launch their brewery in their own independent location. We've had those brewers send their staff back to solve problems at their parent breweries. And just over the winter, in fact, I'll be featuring one of these blogs when I talk about our marketing. One of the breweries, all their equipment up in our on their roof, I don't know if you're aware of this, Erie was hit with 200 inches of snow and kind of endless freeze. It destroyed some of their equipment, and the other brewers started brewing that brewery's beer in order to fill their taps to keep them up while they got the repairs underway. And it's a great example of how industries can coordinate to grow the size of the pie and the total competitiveness of the region. So I thought that would be a great example to bring to show you what's up in Erie. All right, so we're going to talk about marketing your co-working space. This is one of the things I like to think Radius has done well. Like Anne, I have a co-working company, co-working space, but we also have a digital marketing agency, WorkBot Studios, which I joined as a partner just last year. They've been in Erie for about 10 years. And so we like to think that marketing is something in Radius we have a lot of expertise in. Many of our companies work in that field, either through print, photography, digital animation. We do have animators who have worked with Marvel and 343, Microsoft Studios. We also, of course, do a lot of web development in our city itself. But Radius has struck a very particular tone and used a very particular image. And that's kind of what I want to talk about, narrative. And Josh hit on this extremely well, right? He ended his slides with, "This is our narrative." Josh knew how to tell you who and what they were. So we're going to talk about the digital age, websites that really pop. How to tweet. This is a joke. We're not going to talk about cucumber water. That's the mistake that a lot of people make, right? It's like, oh, the flashiest website, that's what's going to win. My cucumber water, that'll sell my space. A picture of a desk, an empty desk, that'll really allure someone in. No, that's not the case, right? We have to frame our purpose first. What we're communicating to people, what we're offering them, is participation in purpose, right? Something's unfulfilled. They haven't been able to access something. They lack something in their day-to-day lives. It may be operational, but most likely, even those operational problems are hindrances to them achieving some purpose in their professional or their personal life. And so when you're communicating about your co-working space, you need to decide what you want to communicate about your particular community, the people in your space, who you are as a co-working community. The two future members, right? So the people you haven't reached yet, the people you haven't met yet, about your current members. It's not about your desk or about your chair. As Alex is a huge fan of pointing out all the time, right? Space is meaningless. It's about those people, the people that your future members haven't met yet. And I got a great picture here of just these will be accompanying every slide, something I like about the theme. So we market a lot. Every time we're doing a potluck, right? We want people to know what our members made, who made what and why. Because there's a great story there. I would love to meet somebody who knows how to make a great Thai curry. Like, that's who I want to meet. I don't necessarily want to meet or find a place where I can sit at a fancier desk. And Josh Lucas here again talking about his great cooperative model. I wanted to feature that because that's a huge storytelling effort that markets work hard to the correct people, the people interested in aspiring to those kinds of goals. And so when you frame your purpose, here's a great example from the Candy Factory that I loved seeing on Facebook pop up, right? The themes of co-working, thriving, the work we do, where we meet, and what we create. You've probably, right, of course, got a space you're going to get work done. There are certainly people that other people want to know and they haven't met yet. And so when you talk about things, you talk about your personalities. You don't talk about your prices. If we think that the difference between someone joining our co-working space is $230 or $250, a $20 swing, which is going to totally, turn them off. If we think that's going to be our competitive edge, we've probably misunderstood what makes our place sticky, what really attracts people and commits them, because it's not the $5 savings. And so when we market our spaces, when we talk about our spaces, we have to remember that. We're building spaces where everyone from CEOs to brand new graduates from college should feel comfortable coming to work. And that usually isn't a dollar value. We ourselves, right, have characteristics. We have values. We have positions on things. And we have to communicate those because those are what resonate most with potential members. The purpose becomes your pitch. These are a photograph of our members, right? And I'm grabbing a lot of this stuff off Instagram and off Facebook, right? This is how we market. These are just obvious best practices. I love this hope sign. First, message of hope. Terrific. Also, brand colors. Very fortunate. And our members are smiling, and we use this photograph in a blog where we told their story about how they use co-working spaces in the two cities they live. They spend half their time in Erie and half their time in San Diego. They Airbnb out one house in the other city when they're gone and own both homes. And they found this incredible way to travel. We've told a great story about Andrea and Ryan here, who happen to be married and are expecting. And that story helps people see how they can put themselves into these co-working spaces and into these positions to take advantage of these opportunities, meet these people, and live that kind of life. I don't think adding a price point on a desk here would have been more persuasive. I think it would have been a distraction. And using that language to espouse those values. Promote your members and what they're doing, right? Not promoting the tools that are in your space. Of course, there's a baseline about your tools that you have to meet. Yes, we have Wi-Fi. Yes, we have coffee. Yes, we have desks and comfortable chairs that we put in the front to persuade people to sit right in the front of the audience. But we're also fun, and we're hilarious, right? We're people, and that's what we're inviting people to join. We're storytellers. We're not making sales pitches. We had a member come into Radius recently who's big into sales, and he was telling me about how if he came in, how he would bring people through the door. They'd be stampeding through the door. I laughed, right? I just that's not a big deal to me, man. Like you don't have to promise me you're going to bring people into these seats, because that's actually not my goal. My goal is not to bring as many human bodies into this space. My goal is to bring you in and others in, because I think that the friction between you, that the symmetries between you, the complements will create opportunities for each other. And I want to vet that opportunity by communicating it to somebody before they've selected to walk into our door. Your marketing is your first chance to establish that expectation, right? If you are talking about your prices, and if you're talking about the desks, if you're talking about the speed of the Wi-Fi, that becomes the expectation that somebody walks in the door looking for. And when that expectation might go unmet or become briefly disrupted, when that's not the reason they bought in, I think it typically means that their commitment is fragile, and might even be fragile to the other people that are there. And that's not the kind of space we want to craft. And the kind of space we want to craft, again, influences our marketing. You're spurring peers to find one another, right? And you don't want it to be transactional. The example we have here is actually the story written by our community manager, who's here today, Aubrey Regan. I encourage you all to talk to her about her experience or to read her blog. Because by Aubrey telling the story of what it was to be a community manager in a co-working space for the first year that she had been there, people came to understand the role of what a community manager is. How do I react? How do I relate to this person? What is this person? How do I reach out to this person? What is this person going to do to help me find out if I can utilize this space? What's my relationship to them when they come there? It's probably not to wash dishes, and we want to make sure that expectation is clear by humanizing this person, not making them a servant. And this makes it necessary for us to think about the kind of space we're trying to craft. Do you want slow organic growth? And I juxtapose this with the surge of strangers, right? So when you think about your marketing, are you putting dollars behind ads to generate as many potential leads as possible because the volume of leads is your measure? Well, maybe. I mean, is that bad? Maybe you're prepared to filter a huge influx of questions and a huge influx of tours, and you've got your members lined up to start answering them themselves because that gives them empowerment over defining the narrative of your co-working space. Maybe you want your members themselves to go find the people that they'd like to bring in, their friend who's looking for a remote job, who somebody in the co-working community can tap with an opportunity and then onboard into the space. That's marketing too. When we think about the marketing and the brand, it's how we're reaching the opportunity to grow what we are. And you're balancing that community craft, right, with your need, of course, to pay for your costs. And that's an important question that most businesses don't have to interrogate, right? If you're a restaurant, you want to sell to as many people as you can. You're not particularly concerned if they're coming in to get a hamburger or to get fish or to get the vegetarian dish. And you're not particularly concerned with whether the people that are coming into your restaurant like one another. But we have to strike a balance between a community space, a civic space, and sustaining the operation at all. So some examples of what you shouldn't do, and I'm not trying to put Hot Desk on blast here, but it was I thought a good example of maybe something you shouldn't be doing, right? So you shouldn't be showing a pristine, empty space that looks totally dehumanized of anything personal. It almost looks totally sterile. We can imagine one person sitting there and it actually like breaking up and ruining that really nice geometrically balanced photo. And we probably don't want to use stock imagery. If you don't have any photographs of your members, what's going on, right? I'm not gonna meet this. I don't know what she's hushing me for, but I'm not gonna meet this girl if I go to Hot Desk, right? And it's like this guy he is thinking really hard, but he's not thinking at Hot Desk. And I know that there are things going on Hot Desk. And I know the founder of Hot Desk, John Armini, he's a great guy with a big heart. And we've talked about this, and he's changed this. I had to scroll pretty far back in his Instagram to find these examples. But you know, if the last 6, 9, 12 pictures of your space have not involved any of your space or any of your people, that's communicating something about your brand and about who you are as people. And I definitely want to mention not disparaging other co-working spaces. I don't think we're likely to do that. Obviously, we all came here to cooperate and coordinate with one another today for the weekend. But it's important also not to disparage other options. Like, it's not wrong or bad to go work in a cafe, right? We don't want to try to convince people that working in a cafe is wrong and they're missing out on something better. Now, it might be better for some people, but one of our members was the founder of the first locally owned cafe in our downtown, and we go work there, and she's still a member of our space. And it was a great option for me when I was working on this PowerPoint so that nobody would come up and ask me questions at Radius. It's essential, right? Some other examples of what you shouldn't do. First, discounts. So I knew of one co-working space, and I don't think you can read their name on there, that I frequently see discounts for, or coupon days, or if you bring a friend, you'll get in free. And so I thought, well, I'll go check their website, see if I can find one of these examples. The website had 2 pop-ups offering me discounts and coupons if I signed up. I didn't even have to look very far. What I've learned about that brand is apparently nobody wants to be there. They're desperately. My knowledge about who that is as a company is somebody fighting for everybody to come into their space and give it a chance. Apparently, the space itself isn't very compelling. The people that are there aren't very compelling, and in fact, no one's telling me a message about any of the people. I'm only hearing about this space and price. And of course, the most famous picture in all of startup culture, Fiverr. Has everyone seen the Fiverr advertisement? That's like essentially selling meth. Eat a coffee for lunch. You follow through on your follow through. Sleep deprivation is your drug of choice. You might be a doer. Join Fiverr. What a miserable life to sell, right? Like, they are pitching you on slavery. We don't want to communicate that. When we talk about our brand, we want to talk about the things people want. Like, if I was like, I'd be like, Radius, enjoy a nice night of sleep, right? Like, that's a great way to sell their co-working space. Radius, come in whenever, I don't care, right? Like, it's like comfortable and casual. Like, you want to get Thai for lunch? I mean, that's what we want to advocate for. When we're advocating for that healthy lifestyle, that's what I want. Like, you don't need to tell me that I'm gonna get a 27-inch monitor, not a 22-inch monitor at my desk. Like, tell me that I'm gonna actually be comfortable when I come in after sleeping, and no one's gonna razz me about not hustling. So some examples of what you should do. I feel like I'm throwing just so much love here at Work Hard, and I did not coordinate with Josh at all, so it's just by chance. But I tried to find examples from those of you I know in the room. Sorry for those of you I hadn't picked out anything for, but Work Hard live streaming their co-op meetings. I don't know if I want to be in a co-working space yet. I certainly maybe am not sure if I want to join a co-op. But what a great comfortable opportunity for me to learn what that might mean by just live streaming a meeting. The beauty shop pictures of members and light and art. I don't know if any of you follow Beauty Shop, but a lot of their narrative is about the city of Pittsburgh itself. And they feature that by taking a lot of photography of the architecture and the public spaces that are in Pittsburgh and adding just short, small lines of poetry. And I find that really compelling because it tells me something about the soul of the person behind that camera. And they always focus lots of pictures of their members, and I'll have an example in a moment. But they take a member doing something, and they have 3 shots fairly rapidly. And I think that tells me a little bit about what this person's doing in the space. Indie Hall's awesome whiteboards. Why I like this so much, why their marketing is so good. They had asked, they put on the whiteboard. I don't know if any of you follow Indie Hall, but they put whiteboard. Go ahead and put your answers on to complete this sentence. And it was describe your job badly. And I, of course, described my job as I rent desks. And nobody seemed to have caught this for like 3 months, but 3 months later, somebody finally responded to the Twitter, no, right? Indie Hall's brand was engaging me over humor about what we do. They know me and I know them, but it was a great way for somebody scrolling through to see the hilarity of what our business is. And Radius members blogging about their work. So we made some really strategic changes after 2 years about how we tell stories on our blog. And we started reaching out much more to our members and asking them, tell us a story about you and about your business. Don't pitch your product, but tell us about why your work was challenging this year. Tell us about something you overcame or you achieved. An example of that, of course, was Aubrey telling us about 1 year in her role as a community manager. And this is Jeff of Erie Ale Works, the man you can thank for all the beer back there. And he's the story of things that will go wrong, about the brewery whose equipment froze and exploded, wasting 5 vats of beer and possibly shutting down their business. And the story is how they only narrowly averted that because of the cooperation of peers in their industry. What an incredibly compelling, humanizing story about what a co-working community and an industry community in general can do to support one another. That is so far our best, and these metrics are old, is our best reaching article, far more than anything we've ever tried to market about the space itself. Some more great examples, and God, Work Hard. Josh, you gonna pay me for this? This is actually Alloy 26, resharing something that Work Hard said about an event at Alloy, and you can see Juicy there, of course, liking it. But showing people doing things in your space is so much better than showing the space itself, right? The underlying subtext of every photo of people in your community doing things is that you have the kind of facility where these things can be done. You don't have to pitch that part of it. It's just obvious. But do you have anybody there? Are those the kind of people or the kind of topics that are interesting? Engaging in stories, right? So I liked this review, not because reviews are great. Of course, they are great, right? Those are testimonials. But because it captured what happened when this person came in, when we marketed that person through the sense of a tour, right? The best decision I ever made coming in, right? I met all these like-minded people who shared their enthusiasm and drive with me. I can't thank Bill, Adam, Brian, Megan, and the rest of everyone else that they met, right? And then there's this instant response. But when we brought somebody into the space, we introduced them to have like half a dozen members, and we tell them, ask about these people's experience. This is that example from Beauty Shop of capturing somebody moving through their space. Form, function, grace, flexibility. I think this is a very clean aesthetic, and it may not be everybody's favorite aesthetic, but it's certainly Beauty Shop's. And probably a lot of their members, and I know this for a fact, are photographers and are in the creative arts and are in design. That's the community they're speaking to. They're speaking the language of the members that they're looking for. Yeah, and I do have basic recommendations, and I think people have questions about this generally who aren't in a marketing profession, right? Over here, I have not Cohere, I'm sorry, Nomad Offices website. So I think Nomad Offices, which is a great space run by Susan Dorsch out in Seattle. They're 10 years old as well. They just celebrated their 10-year anniversary a few months ago. They've got a great, clean website that focuses on what they believe, who their members are, and what their values are. It's very simple. We're not building websites that sell. We're not tracking conversion rates. We're not looking for ad clicks. What we're really trying to do is get people to come talk to us. Unlike a retail site, we're not driving everything from our social media to the website to sell. We're driving people from any venue to us, to place a phone call, to send a tweet, to shoot us an email, or to just stop by. So you want just a simple website, right? Basic information, Instagram, right? You're capturing action, people, events, the subtext of the functionality of the space. With Twitter, you could be fun, right? You could have local conversations with other companies, with people that are in your personal community. You can show your attitude, right? Be brave enough to have a position on things, or to share and celebrate other people's success. Share data. Data about your own co-working space, but about the industry in general. Data is persuasive to your potential funders, to your supporters. You're not just trying to win over people to come into your space. You're trying to help people understand your role in the community. It might be the business next door that's coming to understand that you're an asset and an ally and a partner, not competition. And for those who just aren't in marketing, fill out your Google business and keep that thing complete. That helps a lot with SEO. Social marketing, not social media marketing, social marketing, right? When we think of marketing, typically we're thinking like, okay, advertisements, okay, Facebook, I'm gonna put $20 behind some post. You need to be genuinely social. Now, most of us who self-select into being in the co-working industry are genuinely social. But think about that kind of strategically. Events draw in huge, diverse crowds. The example I've been using as I talk with you this weekend is our gallery nights. But the example we have pictured here below, this was, I think, in our first 3 months or 6 months. We were 6 months old. The Erie Roller Girls, the roller derby team in the city, was kind of on the verge of collapse, but had some new leaders that wanted to reinvigorate it. And Erie Ale Works, my favorite brewery, of course, they were about 8 months old. And so we said, well, we're co-working community. We'll organize a fundraiser for the Roller Girls at Erie Ale Works. Their brewery is in an old mechanics garage. And it opens with the big doors, and so people could just skate in around it, skate out in the parking lot, and it was great. It was 3 small brands or organizations or businesses in the community that wanted to amplify one another. That was a great way of bringing in 100 people just to talk to them and talk about the cool things you're doing and why you're working together. And of course, some of the girls on the roller derby team are members of our space. The Ale Works guys are members of our space, and we're just drinking their beer. But you're building relationships with local media as well. So we had the news there. We're handing them the press releases. We're prepared with who's going to speak, when they arrive, if they arrive, at what time. People in your local community are looking for great stories, just like your political representatives. Your news wants to celebrate what's good too. Communicate to them the success that you have in their language that they're prepared to share and everyone else is prepared to receive, and be consistent about it. One of the most important things we've done is lock in kind of what we do so that we can say with confidence and reliably what we're going to be doing 6 months from now. So we decide on our programming for the year in January, and then we communicate that to people. And we might not touch with somebody again for 6 months, but they hear the same story, and we're not changing it up every time they hear from us. That's important in building a predictable brand. It doesn't mean never change, but it means don't be erratic in how you communicate who you are. And the thing to really consider as you're thinking about your marketing, if people looked at your marketing, could they describe what you do to someone else? If someone met you, could they describe what you do to someone else? That's just thinking about your narrative. It's thinking about yourself as a storyteller. The best marketing will come from your members. Do they understand the passion that you brought if they've only been there for 2 weeks, and how to communicate that and share that passion with other people? And that's a wrap. No, I want to point out something I didn't put on here. I thought about making a slide, and I decided not to because I don't think it's crucial. I don't understand how I would calculate it. In traditional marketing, we think about ROI, right? What's your marketing budget? What's your return for that level of investment? And how do I want to increase or decrease that investment in order to have a more efficient investment, a more valuable return? That's really difficult to calculate for us, and I would caution you against thinking in those terms. You're right, you have to reach people, and you'll have to spend some money to do that, or certainly time, and probably both. But the empirical measure of the number of people I've brought in fails to capture the qualitative measure or the success of the people in your space. If you bring in 10 new people, but only 2 stay, and you've expended tremendous resources to do that, and one of which is a jerk, they don't mesh in the space, and you didn't really think about, why was I reaching the people who would enable support and thrive together with the members I already have? If you haven't thought about that, if you're thinking merely in the empirical measure of return on ROI, I think we're jeopardizing that careful balance that we are trying to strike between building something that succeeds and is sustainable financially, and building something that succeeds and is enabling the sustainability and the personal flourishing of our members. And so, yes, you'll have to make marketing investments, but weigh that investment and how you measure its effectiveness against the value and the effectiveness of what you've created in the space. So that's kind of the presentation I have. Now I would love for us to start talking about marketing, what you do, what you'd like to do. There was a great question over lunch about, when do you have a soft launch versus a grand opening, stuff like that. So go ahead, start throwing it out there. Let's shoot some ideas between each other. Ryan?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, in retelling your narrative, is there an example where you've had some misunderstanding about what it is that your space does and why you exist? You've had to maybe not combat, but counteract?
Yeah, do you mean from members or from other people in the community?
Your choice.
Yes. So I don't know if any of you have encountered this in your community, but we have in ours, where leaders of other organizations have who themselves did not know about or co-working and had not encountered it before, perceived us as a threat to their institutional missions. And some people are laughing. Right, it happens. That takes a lot of communication. I'll still have people who see me on the street. I don't know if any of you have the parent who's come in and is just baffled. They're like, but you make money renting desks? And it's hard, right, to equip them with a language that many people aren't accustomed to, right? We have our own unique lexicon. So I think it takes a lot of examples, because the abstract arguments for how work is changing in the world is not as concrete for people as the argument that, Bill left the nonprofit he was working at and wanted to make money another way, but make money in a way that felt rewarding to him and also return something important to our community. And you start to contextualize Bill's life. And so Bill comes in at 7 a.m. and he gets the coffee pot going, but he doesn't have to, because some days Andrew comes in and he's in before Bill and starts the coffee pot. Oh, so it's not his responsibility? No, it's not. It's all of our shared responsibility. We just built a place where it can happen because we all wanted to do it together. So I think there's a lot of iterative storytelling with contextual examples.
For the pictures of the coworkers, do you have people sign some sort of agreement to use photographs at the outset whenever they join, or do you do it picture by picture?
Both.
How do you manage that?
So Yeah, in our membership agreement, it does, say like you can be photographed in the space or specify that you don't want to be. Regardless, I always ask people because someone like, dude, I'm in Frumpy today. Like, don't post that on Twitter. In fact, one of the hilarious examples of this, just before I left, I walked into a room intent on taking a picture for Instagram and ended up in a conversation with the members, never got a picture. And I walked back out of the room and the guy came by and he saw Bill and he says, like, oh man, now that you guys are going to be out of town, like you're going to come back and all our posture will be terrible because we're not sitting up straight for the pictures, right? So there starts to be a culture of, oh, yep, Sean's got his camera. Okay, good. Yeah, get the candy off the desk, right? So yeah, it's great to have fun with it, right? You're creating something enjoyable. It's not as if there's an expectation that they owe you, 20 poses a month. But yeah, I would always encourage people to ask. You never know when someone just feels like they're having a bad hair day. What else? Yeah.
Do you use video to tell any of these stories?
Oh, do we use video? Oh, he did it. He prompted me. Great. Hold on just a moment.
No, he doesn't.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, we do use video. And what's been so great about that, I'm going to have to, can I drag this over here? What's been great about that is they've been created by our members. So we technically haven't used video in the sense that we haven't paid someone to create something. This was created by one of our members who was starting a video rendering company. You could whoop, there we go. That's not quite right. And these are just pictures of the space that they threw together. And they were demoing their product. So we do use video. And this is actually, if you'll bear with me for just a few minutes, a video created by one of our videography companies. And I think it really does capture the storytelling element of what we do. Now, I do want to caption that this was created as a thank you to Bill and I. And so it's a little complimentary. We wouldn't air this on TV.
Have a mentor. One of the best things that coworking provides is encouragement.
I truly believe that no business is a success without the help of others.
Radius is crucial to being that center of the downtown life.
In my experience, Radius provided a home base.
Radius offered a place to go rather than working from home alone.
Some of my best friends and best professional connections formed at Radius.
You get a lot more than just a place to set your computer up. You get connections or relationships.
You have your conference room, you have your bar, you have all the different assets you need as a business owner, but not necessarily all the overhead you have in your office space.
I believe that Bill and Sean are Radius.
Sean and Bill are definitely the most important pieces of that puzzle.
They really set the tone for the environment of Radius.
Two of them, they just make this excellent team.
It's kind of like the yin and the yang. One thing I admire about Sean is his energy and enthusiasm.
Sean's is very high energy.
It's true. I am high energy.
That's a great person.
Bill's really welcoming, smart guy.
He's a very smart guy.
Bill is very helpful for me. He's taught me a lot of things. There's no one else in Erie that cares more about my business than they do.
They're both highly intelligent, very high integrity individuals who work extremely hard.
They're in the forefront of helping and growing the community in general.
Without their passion to help other people, I don't think Radius would be anything like what it is today.
They are endlessly committed to making Erie a better place.
I'm very thankful that they founded Radius and for all of the work they put into it.
We were pretty touched too. What that has all the elements, right? It's by the members, about what they're doing in the space, about how co-working itself connects them and provides value, situates that internal community within the broader Erie community and what's happening. That's the kind of story you're trying to capture and tell.
Just to speak to that, to piggyback on, one of the things that we really try to do is, obviously you have a video camera and a camera on you at all times, and it doesn't have to be super polished. It can be, you want it to have a personality, obviously, of your space. You want to be quick and on the fly and sometimes spontaneous. So doesn't always have to be, don't get worried if it's not commercial quality. Like, showcase the personality. I think that's really key. And it can be 15 seconds and quick and fun.
If I can add to that, I think an extraordinarily common mistake is prioritizing quality over consistency. And so people post once every 6 to 8 weeks, or maybe it's not quite that sparse, but having something small to share on a daily basis is far more impactful overall long term than the same amount of effort being put into one massive marquee piece that far fewer people will effectively see.
Right. And if you watch on our website, the first thing you see is a video that was made by members. The first thing you see is a bear. I mean, I don't know, you see a member covered in a bear. And Matt Lester is one of our founding members who's been with us for 11 years. And it doesn't turn any more professional people off. They can tell that we have a sense of humor. And so you don't have to be so polished. You can have fun. And it showcases that.
Yeah. Do you have a marketing budget at this point, or?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how much we spend every month. Up $150 to $200. And anything we spend on marketing is spent buying products anyway from our members. And usually that's paying for writing services. We have a copywriter in our space, so we have people who aren't comfortable or confident in writing out their story. That's not part of their job, right? They don't do that on a daily basis. And so we have our copywriters sit and listen to their story and hear it and translate it. And his name is Matt, and he probably knows them anyway. You saw him up here. But he translates what they want to communicate into something that we can share with others. And then the only real marketing expense would be occasionally when we see something that we really want to get out, or it's got some good traction, we might put like $10 or $15, not $1,500, behind it on Facebook just to pop it to some of the new community. But we really don't spend that much. If you enjoy being social and telling stories, yeah, you're posting kind of daily. And you yourself are your brands. So, I mean, I personally tweet a lot. Bill certainly tweets quite a bit. And we're very intentional about separating our personal brands from the co-working space. This is something I try and communicate with other spaces, and I don't know if it's necessarily right for everybody because we're inspired in different ways, but we're very careful to make sure that Radius CoWork does not become a cult of personality as communicated by our marketing. We don't want people to think Radius CoWork Sean because I'm on a camera or I'm tweeting all the time. In fact, there are very, very few pictures of Bill and I on anything because the co-working community is about members. There should be people who join and don't necessarily even know my role, but they know that Aubrey's the community manager, as of right now. That would be ideal. We want, and this is something I'd like to talk about tomorrow, the institutional stability and succession planning. I'd like the enduring variable of a co-working space to be its membership and what it does for the community, not a singular charismatic individual. So you can't hook everybody with your marketing with yourself.